Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory. From the shining cloud the Father's voice is heard. This is my beloved Son, hear him. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus took Peter, John, and James and went up the mountain to pray. While he was praying, his face changed in appearance, and his clothing became dazzling white. And behold, two men were conversing with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his exodus that he was going to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions had been overcome by sleep, but becoming fully awake, they saw his glory and the two men standing with him. As they were about to part from him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But he did not know what he was saying. While he was still speaking, a cloud came and cast a shadow over them, and they became frightened when they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my chosen Son, listen to him." After the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone. They fell silent and did not at that time tell anyone what they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord. Well, good evening again, and what a beautiful evening it is. It's so bright and it is so sunny, and you kind of feel in your bones that the spring is not that far away, and it does make a difference, doesn't it? It makes a difference to everything. So we live in a very mixed up world, don't we? We're surrounded by such beauty and grandeur and brightness and happiness, and then we see that massacre over in New Zealand, and more of the madness that we have become all too familiar with, this time in New Zealand. But it doesn't matter where it is. It's kind of like it just cuts you to the heart at the craziness, the sadness, the madness of it all. And you just feel so helpless. You have to shake your head and wonder, and just wonder. Well, you know, while I was watching that news unfold, I read a little thing. I saw it on the internet, and it was another kind of story. I just want to share a little bit of this because it kind of brought tears to my eyes, I have to say, for a completely different other reason. This was a story that was published in the Detroit newspaper about a couple who died last week. They met at age 14 in Detroit. They had been married for over 60 years, by the way. They met when they were 14 and started out life as friends, said their daughter Mary Beth Webb. They dated and were even engaged to other people, but the two later found themselves single, and Judy decided to start writing to Will while he was serving abroad during the Korean War. Webb said that her parents wrote the entire time he was in the army, and gradually the friendship blossomed into something more. The couple were married in February 1963. They always had their arms on each other. If she was away 5 minutes, he would say, "Where's Mama? Have you seen Mama?" Laurie Thomas, one of the couple's daughter, told Fox 2 in Detroit. "If you have someone you truly love, you should fight for it," Ann Warren, another daughter, added. They fought for their love every day. The fight became more obvious a few months ago after Judy experienced complications from a routine surgery, she ended up coding from it. Laurie Thomas said, "My father watched it and broke." The next morning, the couple's daughters discovered their father had collapsed, heartbroken over his wife's prognosis. He was taken to a different hospital, but they experienced similar symptoms. She would get a fever from her infection. He would get a fever, and they couldn't figure out where his was coming from because there was no source. Mary Beth Webb, the couple's daughter, told Fox 2, she ended up with encephalopathy as a complication from the antibiotic she was on. He ended up with encephalopathy. The couple was ultimately reunited in hospice. Anne Warren said that the last thing her father said was, "Mama," after his wife was brought into the room. Their daughters pushed the beds together so they could hold hands in their final moments. Will died first, followed by Judy a few hours later, still holding his hand. We're suffering the loss of our parents at the same time, and that's hard, Mary Beth Webb told Fox 2, adding, but they will never have to suffer again the loss of each other. Isn't that a beautiful story? Yeah, kind of. I just wanted to read that to you today because there's so much negative news and so much sadness in the world. So, and you probably know very well. There are great stories like that around. Maybe one of them is your story, story of great love and great commitment and just great human warmth and love. Well, now I want to, by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day, etc., etc., etc. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. It's tomorrow. I want to say a few words to you about the reading that we had today. It's the story of the Transfiguration. You know, I can never make head nor tails out of that story. Like, I don't know why Jesus took these two disciples up on the mountain. I don't know what that was about, the cloud coming down on them, and Moses and Elijah, and his clothes becoming dazzling white. I don't know what it was supposed to be all about, but I do ask myself, well, what are we supposed to learn from it? Well, you know, I think, when I think about that event, I think of a kind of an amazing episode or experience, an experience that was surrounded in mystery and awe and wonder. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it was all about. A reminder to Peter, James, and John about the majesty and the wonder of life itself, and about the life of Jesus also. Remember, St. Mark said in his gospel, they were all overcome with awe. Awe, a little word. Awe. How long is it since you had an experience of awe and wonder? You know, there was an article in New Scientist that defined what awe means, and they defined it this way. They said, it is the feeling we get when confronted with something vast that transcends our frame of reference and that we struggle to understand. It is a momentary sense of amazement which may also be tinged with fear. It was in the case of the disciples on the mountain that time. And Mark Twain one time wrote, he said, he who can no longer pause and to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. How long is it since you had a sense of awe and a sense of wonder in the presence of anything? For many of us, it may have been too long ago, because nowadays everything is very technical. Everything's so analytical and so cynical and critical. Nowadays we analyze everything and we're amazed by nothing. Isn't that true? We analyze everything. And when you do that, you're not in awe of anything. Remember the little poem you knew when you were a child? The children who are here may know it. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. I know you used to love that poem. Now you probably prefer the cynical and awe-less version that goes like this. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, we know exactly what you are. Teacher told us yesterday, you're 50 billion miles away, and nothing but a swirling mass of several different kinds of gas. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, we don't wonder what you are. Well, it'll be a very sad day when we lose the ability to be amazed and to be struck with awe. And it doesn't really have to happen either. John Updike writes or notes, our brains are no longer conditioned for reverence and awe. We cannot imagine a second coming that would not be cut down to size by the televised evening news. How true that is. It used to be, in the time of the poets Wordsworth, Yeats, and so on, that they were very much in awe of the world around them. They wrote those beautiful, beautiful, awesome lines about the world of nature. And I'm sure if they lived here in Spring Lake, they would have been writing about the ocean as they walked on the beach in the summer or in the winter or whenever it was. They had a great, great sense of awe, and I think people kind of more easily got in touch with that phenomenon and that experience in earlier times. 2,500 years ago, the psalmist looked up at the stars and he wrote, the heavens declare the glory of God. Since that day, of course, science has told us an awful lot about the heavens that the psalmist didn't know. But the knowledge should in no way diminish the wonder of it all, unless you decide to let it. To the contrary, you could say that the more we learn about the universe, the more marvelous and mysterious and awesome it becomes. The psalmist looked up and he saw a single star. Now we can look through a big microscope and we can see a billion stars. Well, how come we can't say, even more so than the psalmist, the heavens declare the glory of God? And there's another verse in the Psalms that says, I will give thanks to God, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Isn't that something? I will give thanks to God, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That's a powerful statement. He was thinking about himself. He was thinking about his own body. He was thinking about his own mind. And he was amazed by the miracle of who he was. Medical science nowadays has taught us all kinds of things about ourselves that the psalmist never dreamed of. He never dreamed about transplanting one organ from one person into another person. He never imagined that the human mind would create a machine that would think 1,000,000 times faster than his own mind. And for some people that has robbed the mystery of the human mind and the human person. But for others, like no generation in the history of mankind, it gives reason to echo even more forcefully the word of the psalmist. I will give thanks, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. There were only 3 disciples on the mountain that day at the Transfiguration. You can't really share in their experience, but you can share in their response to it. We're told they were overcome with awe. Overcome with awe. Now that should happen to us, at least from time to time. You're surrounded by mystery, and there are marvels of life all around you, if we could only open our eyes and take time to see them again. We're in the springtime now, I think. We're just beginning spring. And spring tells us how beautiful and how marvelous and how wonderful the world is that we live in, and how great a time it is for us to be alive. So I challenge you on the second Sunday of Lent, I challenge you to use this time to open up your eyes and open your heart and open your mind to the wonder of it all. Amen.